Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Debbie, and I am back to share some new nuggets with you today. And so today I would like to take them from Psalms 105, and our reading is 16 through 36. And if you didn't catch that, I'll tell you again. Psalms 105, 16 through 36. And so as I was reading through this, of course, it's historical. It's talking about the Israelites, their journey and all of their things that they went through, and God bringing them to the promised land. And so they would sing songs about it so they wouldn't forget, and they could share it with the generations. And I think that's so neat to do something like that we need to be sharing things with our children and grandchildren too. I probably say that way more than I should, but how important is it for our children to understand the word, how it applies to us today, and how it will continue to apply to future generations. In fact, whenever we get online and studying together, we could be imagining and visualizing that we're teaching this to the future generations that's not even born yet, and for them to receive the word of God. So, yesterday was the beginning of Psalms 105, and I like how it starts there on giving thanks, because the first thing we should always do is give thanks to Him. Now, as we get over to Psalms 105:16, then it starts what we're going to be looking at real quick today. He, the Lord, called for a famine on the land of Canaan. Now, do you remember that story? And it's about cutting off the food supply, because this has to do with Joseph. It says, then he sent someone to Egypt ahead of them, Joseph, who was sold as a slave. So Joseph had quite the experience of being the favorite son of a dad that had many sons. And that's probably a little sticky situation when you think about it, because what have they got? Probably not a whole lot, but Dad likes Joseph so much more, and he makes him a pretty coat. Nobody else gets one but him. So he's had all of these dreams and visualized his brothers bowing down to him and all different kinds of things, and being the little brother, the favorite little brother of the dad, he doesn't mind telling big brothers that they're going to serve him, and it doesn't go well, as it wouldn't even go well today. But now then, as we get on into the reading, I never really read. If you go back and read, let me know. I never really saw where Joseph was bitter about that. The writer of the story never, if he was never focused on that. It was of the big picture story. He gave us enough details that for what we needed to know about the story. And the same thing's going to happen in the Psalms today as they recount the story of it. It says in 18, they bruised his feet with fetters and placed his neck in an iron collar until the time came to fulfill his dreams. The Lord tested Joseph's character. Now that sounds a lot like what we could see a comparison with Jesus. That, they bruised his feet, they had him in chains and all of that. Well, Joseph did get put in prison too. He had a lot. He was thrown in a pit. He was sold into slavery and completely taken out of the family. But back to verse 19. Until the time came to fulfill his dreams, the Lord tested Joseph's character. Now, that speaks so many volumes to me. I mean, I could just imagine if I look back at my life and think, man, God, I'm kind of getting tired of these tests. Will I ever pass the final test? Is that when, all of these are like little steps at a time, and I've passed this one, and another one comes, and another one comes, and another one comes, until the time he came to fulfill his dreams. Now, his dreams was that they would bow down to him, but he really didn't know in what capacity that would be, how important that was going to be in the whole big picture of things. But during this time, it's all a test. And he probably thought what I just said. I just told them what I was dreaming, and they pushed me around. They didn't like that. I just told Dad where they were at. They didn't like that either. I went and told them my dreams, and they didn't like that. And it was all tests to get him to where God wanted him and be stronger for it. Because God doesn't want you to be wimpy. He doesn't want wimpy Christians. He's wanting you to be strong and courageous. Well, that's a new word. If he's created us to be courageous, then we could be courageous, right? I'm going to write that down. And so, it goes on to say, then Pharaoh sent for him and set him free. But now, back up just a minute. When it says he was sold into slavery, let's go back to verse 17. Joseph, who was sold as a slave. Well, that was his brothers that sold him. But look, that's not important to the story. So many times whenever we tell a story, we want to throw in all of these details and the whole setting of the land, lay the foundation before you tell the punchline of the story. And really, is it needed? The brothers aren't even included in that. That wasn't important. The important thing was just he was sold as a slave. Now, I think the brothers, if they thought, well, we weren't even important to be included in that in the final story, well, they weren't. All of this was just orchestrated for times that would be ahead of time. And so everything until it came time to fulfill his dreams of being over his brothers and the nation. And so then when you go on to look at that, I mean, I love how this has got this is like the cliff notes of the whole story. Pharaoh sent for him to free him after he was in prison. And this is the ruler of the nation opened the prison door for the prisoner to become the ruler of the possessions. So isn't that great? We went from being the slave, the prisoner, to becoming the ruler of the possessions directed by the ruler of the nations. And he also, not only that, teaching the king's advisors, he went from being this one that irritated his brothers all the time and telling them all these details about his dreams. Now he's telling the king's advisors information, teaching them, and he's got a great mind. So he knows how to speak and with details and probably really make it colorful so they will really understand, because that's how he told those dreams to his brothers. He really made